Welcome everybody to Game Think Talk Live. I am your host, Matthew Falvey. I'm joined by Matthew Hayes. Matthew Hayes, how are you? We were just listening to some Jet Grind Radio. If long-time viewers will recognize this chap as one of the first guests we ever had on the YouTube channel, and then became a permanent co-host of Game Think Talk. Wasn't that permanent? This guy is rocketing up the gaming industry. He's now working for and running comicbook.com's gaming division, which you can also find at wwg.com. These guys are on top of it with tons of gaming news, reviews, opinions. How are you, Matthew?
Doing super good. I've had a relaxing, somewhat productive, and energetic Sunday. It's been recreational. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, you're telling me all these crazy things you're up to. You're like, oh, you're listening to new music you're discovering, and then I tune in and I'm like, what are you doing? You're like, just reading a ghost story?
Yeah.
Just this guy over here.
Making the most of it.
That's beautiful, man, because you work hard, so you finally got this little bit of home time where you're still working, but you can do some cool things. That's great. Hey, in the chat, we're going to be taking comments and questions. We got Callum Daly in the chat. Hello, Callum Daly. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be addressing some great games that myself and Matthew Hayes have been playing. First off, Matt, you're obsessed with the Mario Rabbids Kingdom.
Yeah, that's not an understatement. That's pretty accurate. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom battle.
Now, I thought when I first saw this, I thought, what are Rabbids? I don't care. I'm not really a big Ubisoft fan other than Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah.
I just wanted a Mario game, and when I found out it wasn't being made by Nintendo, I mean, Nintendo was assisting, and I guess they have to like approve things through them.
Oh yeah.
Maybe quality control or whatever, but I thought, and then to combine, like, you take these two family-friendly, platform, fun, zany, goofy things, and they're like, how about this? A hardcore strategy game, huh? Yeah, let's go after that small niche that only XCOM occupies in Fire Emblem. So, but you can't get enough of this game. What's so great about it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who you ask and what they come to games for primarily. I've literally, I mean, every facet of this game's presentation and gameplay I've gotten so much out of. So when you ask, what makes it great, I could wax poetic about almost everything about the game that I've been enjoying, which is pretty much everything about the game. But mainly for me, when I heard about it so long ago, I didn't have a negative reaction like most people seemed to. Most people were pretty allergic to the idea of Mario and Rabbids coming together, mainly because I think people just hate the Rabbids. They're kind of like, they're Ubisoft's version of the Minions, and they're over the top, goofy, and slapstick, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. So the fact that they were combining Rabbids with the most, you could probably say, the most prestigious and iconic IP and character in the gaming world, people were very convinced that it was going to fall flat, especially because Ubisoft was handling the development. But Ubisoft's Milan team really, they knocked it out of the park. And there was the first official reveal at E3 when they showed that infamous clip of Davide Soliani, the creative director and director of the game, crying in the audience. That is when the tables turned and everybody was like, okay, maybe Ubisoft isn't this heartless giant corporate, machine that's just crapping out a game with Mario's name on it to make some money. Maybe there's actually people here who believe in this project and are like putting their creative utmost into this game and want it to be something truly special. Maybe it's special enough to make the director cry live in front of hundreds of thousands of people because he sees Miyamoto up there representing his game. That's the heart that went into it. Is by far my favorite thing, because you can see that in every facet of the presentation. It's gorgeous. It rings out every last drop of performance that the Switch has to offer. At least I think we may see better optimized games in the future, but I was consistently blown away by what they were able to do visually, and how many things were happening on screen, and how beautiful it all was, and how consistent it performed. And the gameplay is just rock solid strategy gameplay. I mean, for people who love XCOM and they're coming for gameplay and not presentation primarily, they're still going to get a ton out of this. It is really, really tough, thoughtful, strategic combat, and there's just enough RPG elements to make you feel like you're progressing constantly, but you're never overpowered for any of the missions. You're always just competent and just powerful enough to complete the mission at hand, if not, fail it and do it again after you realize, what enemies are going to be doing what. But it's just it's a fantastic progression loop and difficulty curve. And I don't know, man. I consumed it, and I'm taking way longer than most people going through this game, taking my sweet time. I've put in more hours than I honestly think most people who are playing this game have put in there, and I am not even through the last world yet. I've soaked it up like a sponge, and I've loved every second of it.
So we've got sort of a now you said RPG elements. Is that just the characters leveling up, or is there some kind of story with this? Is it like a thinly veiled narrative that strings you from battle to battle, or could this be the Mario RPG alternative that people have been clamoring for a long time? I mean, like, other than I think we're all pretty familiar with the gameplay of the strategic RPG combat, but what's everything in between? What are you doing there?
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of exploration. That's some of the Mario inspiration comes into play between battles, because there's lots of environmental puzzles and pipes and blocks and keys, and even a little bit of Metroid sprinkled in there, because as you're passing through the worlds, there are several obstacles and puzzles that you will be standing in front of, and you just cannot, you lack a certain power or some kind of traversal ability that you need to reach this secret or this chest or this thing, this alternate path. And you'll be 2 worlds later, and you'll finally get that thing, and you'll be like, oh, I need to go back to world 1 and relook at this puzzle, because I finally have the ability to do this thing that I couldn't do before.
Right.
So there's a lot of puzzle and exploration elements. And as far as RPG elements, you're not really leveling up, but you are you have a pretty hefty skill tree to invest points into, that you can respec at any time. And there are a few different builds that will emphasize each character's strengths and weaknesses, and you will respec those skill trees depending on which battle you're going into. And there's tons of weapons. Every character has a big list of primary and secondary weapons, and again, going back to the progression pacing, you're always needing that next more powerful weapon, and you always have just barely enough currency to like pick 1 or 2 characters to get that next weapon with. Okay. So just everything is always changing and respecking, and in between you have beautiful exploration and puzzle solving, and what I consider to be a pretty great, charming little story.
Wow. In the chat, Callum Daly, you have really won him over. He says, oh, I get it. That makes sense now. I wondered why people hated it, but from what you're saying, it seems great. I might try it out later. He says it sounds a bit like Skylanders, but better. I don't really know much about Skylanders, but I don't know. Any parallels there?
I don't know really much about Skylanders myself either. I haven't invested in any of the Toys to Life adventure and action games, but maybe in terms of presentation and when you're looking at some gameplay, there might be some parallels there, especially in the world exploration segments.
Sure.
And the way certain puzzles and stuff work out, and how you have to use different characters and abilities to do certain things. So
yeah,
there might be some parallels there.
Another thing I don't think people were expecting was just how beautiful this game looks. You were showing me a NeoGAF thread you were taking part in, and people were showing off some of their Mario Rabbids visual porn, and it looks good. I mean, I don't know why people are surprised. Well, actually, I assumed it was a Nintendo game again, but I wonder if Nintendo had more of a hand on that. I guess we probably can't really comment on that. We don't know how much influence they had, but it seems like they held Ubisoft to a very, very high standard with this game. They weren't letting anything go out. Do you feel that Nintendo charm in there, that sort of extra level of polish, that extra level of fun and goofiness, or does this have like a very strong Ubisoft flavor?
It marries both of those. There is so much Nintendo in this game. There is so much Nintendo, but it's still honestly, it's Davide Soliani and his team at Ubisoft Milan pitched a bunch of ideas. They had like 7 or 8 concepts for this game when they knew they were going to be able to pitch a Mario game to Nintendo. They had this
Yeah.
working relationship. They had this opportunity. And when they finally landed on this concept, they mocked up a demo to show Nintendo. And they, quite apart from Nintendo, on their own, they made renders of Mario and Luigi that were so convincing. Nintendo asked them where they got those assets. They said, "We did not send you guys these assets. Where did you pull these from?"
They said, "Whose uncle works at Nintendo?"
Yeah, exactly. So these guys really do, like, when Davide was crying at seeing Miyamoto on stage representing his game. It's because he is a Nintendo fan. Like, he got into gaming because he loved Nintendo games. Like, he's just like me or any other of the Nintendo fanatics. Like, he just knows the company. He knows their quirks. He knows what makes those games special. And he captured all of that perfectly while still putting that Ubisoft Milan kind of goofy Rabbids spin on all of it. And it's just, those two worlds collide perfectly.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know enough about the Rabbids, but I could see that if you're up for a goofy, adventurous time, then those could go very well together. I think seems like, do the Nintendo characters sort of play the straight men and women of it? Are they like, check out these weirdos? Are there any sort of like in-game jokes, like some little sort of quirky, nerdy jokes about Nintendo or Rabbids in general?
Oh, they're everywhere. There are Easter eggs from the very opening cinematic, which sets up the story foundation, which, as I said, was much firmer than I expected it to be. There are countless. I'm sure I've missed so many Easter eggs for both worlds. They're callbacks to past Rabbit adventures from the Wii and DS and 3DS, and
all those old stories we know so well.
Exactly.
That we tell our children.
Right. And obviously a lot of Nintendo. There's just items and memorabilia and shout outs and inside jokes and there's a whole lot to digest there for fans of both series.
So, who would you recommend this game to?
Almost anybody. It's hard to imagine. The people who won't like this game are people who just detest the turn-based strategic combat, because that is, that's kind of, everything comes down to these battles eventually, and that's kind of the meat of the game. So if you just really hate turn-based strategy, kind of grid-based board game combat, then you're not going to have a lot of fun here. The exploration segments are not going to be enough to get you through all of those battles, and because there's a ton of them.
There you go. Mario Rabbids, highly recommended, from a man made 50% of Mario and 50% of Rabbid himself, Matthew Hayes. Well, what could I talk about? I've played Uncharted Lost Legacy. I played a little bit of the Dreadnought beta. I played a little bit of Everybody's Golf.
Oh, yeah.
I played a ton of Final Fantasy, but that's what we stream here all the time. So we'll maybe go with some stuff that people who watch the streams have not played or saw me play. Dreadnought, the beta. This is out on the PC and the PS4. By the way, we just have Chris Samel Tayag join in saying Yahalo 90. And Callum Daly wanted to clarify his statement about Skylanders. He says, in terms of presentation, he meant. So I guess
Gotcha. Yeah.
in terms of like bringing them together. Chris Samel Tayag famously, who the first person to see me on the face cam on our Let's Play series, said, I thought you'd be slimmer. And I blame the angles. I was probably sitting back like this when I should be sitting like this. Anyways.
At least he's honest.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I expected myself to be slimmer too, but it just doesn't magically happen. So Dreadnought is a 4v4, I think, is the main thing they're going after. And it's a competitive multiplayer team-based, squad-based, where you are piloting these gigantic ships and you steer them. And did you play Rebel Galaxy at all? I think that was a PS Plus game, and that was the same kind of thing. You're like piloting these big ships. You had a couple guns, and you were doing a lot of different missions and stuff. But that one you could only go 2D. It was like driving a car in space. This you can go up, you can go down. It's got a great sci-fi look and feel to it. When I explained it to you over Hangouts, you were saying, "Oh, it sounds a bit overwhelming." I guess you were trying to
Yeah, a
stop
lot of
me from...
micromanagement of your ship.
Yeah, because you're diverting power to engines, weapons, or shield. But what they do is it's very, very simplified. They use the touch bar on the PlayStation controller. You just like flick up, you flick over, you flick right, and then you can just have one of them sort of supercharged at once. And then you are constantly watching the cooldowns on your different types of weapons. There's lots of different types of ships. Like one of them, for example, is shaped like a big harpoon, basically, and it can only fire straight, but it has basically a rail gun, hugely powerful burst, but it's very vulnerable to more maneuverable ships. And then you have your healing ships, and then you have these bigger ones, and you're lining up broadside blasts, bringing up the guns. You're firing off missiles when you get locks. You're putting power to the shields when missiles are coming in, or using your anti-missiles. So I think that people that were who love online competitive but want to play with other people, there's going to be so much you could do here in terms of strategy, of like coordinating. It
almost sounds like like you're forming an RPG party. Like you got your healer, you got your DPS without a harpoon ship. I mean, I'm assuming there's a more tanky, and then you have your almost assassin thing, the dodgy, quick moving.
For sure. Yeah, there are ones that move a lot faster. I saw a few people complaining on the Steam reviews. Can you believe it? And they were saying well, the problem with this game is that it rewards too much individualistic play. So people were finding that people were going after, say, like you said, the more nimble ship, and then running in and getting last hit and going for experience. So there's a few ways that they could get around that and make it so it's a bit more cooperative based. So you're rewarding people, like when you and I were playing the COD multiplayer beta, which we should talk about after this, actually, where that war mode was a lot more cooperative. But we'll get to that. So
right.
I don't really like very competitive things because I suck at video games, and I don't like people yelling at me to be better. I had enough of that with my dad. So
yikes.
But they do. This is in the beta right now. It's kind of like early access, and they are promising that there is going to be a single player campaign to come. So when that comes, I'm going to play the hell out of that, and I might dabble with some multiplayer stuff, maybe play healer or something and see what it's like. But in terms of nailing that feel of, I felt like I was on the back of a big whale because it's just so slow moving it around. But it's not just in space. They actually have these cool missions where you're on a planet and you're navigating through these canyons, which could be huge. But so you're it's all about timing. You can get your shot off, swoop down below, narrowly avoid crashing into these canyons, and dodge the big bursts from them. And I think they've got a really good thing going here, probably for a smaller niche. But if anyone is interested in, like you were saying, that kind of RPG combat teaming up, there is a lot of cool stuff on there for people like that.
Interesting.
In the chat, what's going on here? We've got... Oh my God, no, there's so many comments, I can't even see them. Hey, Chris Samel joined in. Bravely Forward says, keep up the great work. Pimp the background, 90s. Come on, you can do better. This is a sweet free background I found, and I love it. But you told me you were going to make me one, so how about you make me one, huh? Be better about what you said you'll do for me. Callum Daly said, it's amazing. He loves it. Me and my older brother played it ages ago, because I think they put it out as maybe a Kickstarter. So it's been kicking around for a couple years of development, but it's now there's a free beta for everybody to play on the PS4 and PC as well. And then we have Chris Mel saying, 90, I commented on your Lightning Return stream. Chris Mel is repeating herself again. Great, Chris Mel. Thank you for contributing to my awesome talk on Dreadnought. Hey, let's talk about this Call of Duty World War II. Back to the basics.
Yeah.
We played the beta, and I just talked for a while. So what were your initial thoughts on that?
I appreciate the direction back to a more traditional Call of Duty experience. I think everybody's gotten a little bit hardened towards Call of Duty in recent years because the past few entries have been a little samey. And especially after Black Ops 3, I think everybody just assumed we would keep going forward with slide boosting, double jump, jetpack, wall run. It's like everything was going that direction, and some games were nailing it better than others. Titanfall 2 comes to mind immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas with Call of Duty, it was just so narrowly iterative. Like it just barely tweaked things here or there that you felt like you were playing almost the same game with the different, coat of paint. So I think this was a wise decision to let Sledgehammer take it a different direction, go a little more traditional. I didn't realize how much I missed that experience because it's less chaotic in a way, and it's a little more back to hide and seek with bullets.
Absolutely.
And that's a timeless game that everybody loves to play, and it's a little more. It's a little more of that. It's a little more like what people come to games for, and less about the spectacle of everything that everybody's doing all the time. So, it's still a little. You have your exploding shotgun shells that hit from 100 meters away. It's
they
not
need to
like
work those out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're still balancing so much. But I overall I was pretty impressed. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that they'll probably knock the single player campaign out of the park, and I think that people will be raving about that. And typically the campaigns are very good in Call of Duty games, but then for years afterward, people are sticking around for the multiplayer, so they really need to nail that. And I think they're taking it in a very good direction, especially with the war mode, the more objective driven mode.
Yeah, I liked that it was a bit more slowed down, and the map design seemed a little bit tighter with a lot more corridors, especially the first couple maps we played that had those actual trenches.
Yeah.
And I mean, I enjoyed the shotgun because I'm not a great headhunter.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun to use.
Yeah, but I can see why that would be a bit. The one I found really frustrating to die from was the quick scope.
Oh yeah,
we had a guy.
Well, you're gonna get that in every Call of Duty.
Just destroying us with quick scope. That just seems lame. Maybe I should just learn how to do it, but I don't even want to learn how to do it. And then we went to that war mode. Like I was mentioning with the people that were complaining about Dreadnought, I really like that was just so much about the objective. It just forces people to play how you'd want them to play, like more cooperatively, more together, trying to creating something together. And some of the spots seemed a bit like building a bridge across the way was a little bit tough. Oh man, how about the Overwatch material just sort of directly airlifted right into it, where you're escorting a tank down the lane,
escorting the payload. And
it was so, and like you mentioned too, like, oh yeah, here comes the countdown timer that we need, like the countdown timer they would have in World War II.
Right.
It's coming. The match is almost over. But it's that mode was a lot of fun, doing a lot more kind of peak. They really captured sort of that feeling of war where, when you're hiding in some sort of torn down building, poking your head out of a window and then getting popped off. I didn't find that frustrating. I found that really intense and sort of, because I just watched Dunkirk. So I really like that feeling of like, I'm in war. It's a scary place. And I'm going to sprint across and I might get hit. So I would have liked, in the UI of the game, I would have liked it to look a little bit more period-esque. It does somewhat, but sometimes it feels like they just sort of took the same UI a lot of the times. And that could have been a little more tweaked. That's kind of a nitpick. And the actual visuals are fine. I mean, it's Call of Duty, and it's a Call of Duty we've seen many times before, but they're going back to the well. I didn't get too far into sort of the different divisions, which seem to be the big main difference of what you can do, and in terms of perks either. So I'm hoping that they don't rely too heavily on that, because that can be a big learning curve when you jump into a new multiplayer experience and everyone else is like rocket boosting and sprinting past you and you don't have any of those abilities. That's not really fun. That's what I love about Overwatch, and why I think it's so successful, is that everybody's on the same playing field. So we had a question from Callum Daly. Oh, that reminds me, have you guys heard of a game called Paladins?
I haven't played it. Have you?
Paladins? Nope. That's the like Overwatch sort of clone, right? That's free?
That's what everybody knows it as. And,
right.
I mean, honestly, they allegedly it was in development before Overwatch was a known thing. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But I've seen plenty of the community claim that while it shares many characteristics because it's a class-based, team shooter. Yeah. And some of the heroes and classes are pretty identical to their Overwatch counterparts, but it is doing its own thing. It's extremely polished. It is free, and it's the developers are continuing to improve it on a very consistent basis. I think it launched as a great game, and I think it's better now than it's ever been. The population of concurrent players has continued to grow, so I know it's doing well.
They got a huge cast of characters too. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, like 33 characters.
Yeah, they're almost going for like a MOBA vibe there.
Yeah. Some would say too many. If they really were in development before Overwatch, and some of these characters are so similar, well then wouldn't they be after Blizzard, trying to get some of that Blizzard money, maybe sue them for some? I think that's a nice story to say, but maybe it was started in development a long time ago, but I have a feeling they took a look at over what these guys were doing. And
for sure.
But I mean, I don't know anything about the gameplay, so it could be much different. Like Battleborn and Overwatch, they're similar in many ways, like you said, but they have so many different elements that the actual act of playing them is not. Callum Daly calls it basically Overwatch, but has a few more features, is all. That's what he says. All right, well, what else do we have to talk about here? Matt, you've been playing some Windjammers.
Yeah, it's really great.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, it looked fun, and I knew I would probably enjoy it. I did not know that it would be keeping me up at night and that I would be putting off work to play it. It's cross-buy, so I have it on my PS4 and my Vita, and the versions are actually separate. Like the trophies are individual to each platform. It's not like a shared thing. So certain things I've unlocked in the Vita version I haven't unlocked or achieved rather in the PS4 version. So that's kind of weird. And I think the online communities are platform specific as well. I don't think, because I didn't have too much trouble finding online opponents in the PS4 version, but I haven't found a single person to play online on the Vita. So that's a little annoying, but I can probably understand why they would do that. Yeah, it's just like pure competitive arcade action. I mean, if you've seen the gameplay, you will understand it immediately, but it is so just like punchy and precise and gratifying to. Yeah, I mean, you're throwing the frisbee back and forth trying to get it into the other person's goal. It's basically like a super compressed soccer with a frisbee instead of a soccer ball.
Yeah.
And it's just one-on-one, but it's slamming shots against the wall to try to ricochet. It's more like air hockey than anything else. And
yeah, that's the vibe I got.
They execute it so well. I mean, you can do like the half circle sweeps on the joystick to get these curved throws, and it directs very precisely like where you slam your joystick before you mash X to throw it off. And if you catch a frisbee and toss it back right away, if you have like perfect timing reflexes, you'll toss back like a super speed shot. And if you can get in the direct path of the frisbee and stand still and tap X right when it hits you, it'll knock it up in the air and you'll supercharge. And when you catch it, you can unleash this like powered up shot that's really hard to.
Oh, okay.
So there's only like 3 layers of the gameplay. But once they all start going back and forth like in unison, and you're in the heat of a really good match between a competent opponent, the back and forths can be incredible. I mean, I'm gonna get a blister on my thumb.
Wow. Yeah, that's so basically, for the Vita, you just get another copy of it on the Vita, but they are basically
much,
2 different
yeah.
online ecosystems. Mm-hmm. It's too bad that they can't combine, but like you're saying, the Vita's an older system now, so to match those up, I guess, might be a problem, or maybe people in the Vita would think they were at a disadvantage because of the controls.
And they probably would be.
Okay. I had never played this game, in its older style. It's just one-on-one, basically, right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. There's actually a really great game in this vein, and it's called Video Ball. Have you seen that at all?
Yeah, and I've been tempted to buy it several times. Yeah, I have seen that, and it looks really good.
Yeah, that's made by Tim Rogers.
Yep.
The guy who writes these hilarious. If you're into huge articles, if you want to read like a 20,000 word review on something with long tangents, this guy does it better than just about anybody else.
I think he's writing for Kotaku now.
Yeah, and he did their E3 coverage, which was quite alternative as well. But it's kind of the same concept where it's more like Pong, but multiplayer Pong. This Video Ball that Tim Rogers has, and because I guess when I saw Windjammers, I'm like, seems like it'd be better if you could have 2 versus 2. But I guess they just kept it with exactly what it was back then, and that's
pretty much straight up arcade port. Yeah,
that's all it's going to be. Hey, well, that sounds good. All right, Everybody's Golf is a game you and I both played.
Yeah,
this is the new. Oh, look at that smile. A game started on the PlayStation 1, carried through all the PlayStation systems. I was really surprised that Sony did not market this game at all. They didn't even bother on its release day. I didn't see it on the PSN front page. And I was pretty disappointed with that because obviously if it doesn't sell well, they're probably not going to bother bringing it over to North America again. Although they generally have all this way, but it's a budget title. It's $40 American, $50 Canadian. It's more Everybody's Golf. However, this time you got a bit more of an online persistent world. Yeah. In some cases, with sort of like small servers. You and I were kind of struggling to figure out exactly what you do in this online course. And then some other little mini games are going to open up, like golf cart racing and a few other
fishing.
Things. Yeah, fishing. I mean, I would love that if it was easier for you and me to just hop in and go and just chat and go fish in here.
Yeah.
This is the kind of game. Like oftentimes when you and me are having a PlayStation Network conversation, and I don't really want to hop into a game that takes any kind of thought or attention, or where I want to listen to like the cutscenes or something. So this would be perfect for just a couple people to hang out. However, it was a little bit tough for you and I to get on the same page in the server. So maybe that's like bugs there working out. Maybe I'm not leveled up enough. Maybe I just don't understand where to go. But it definitely wasn't easy at all for us to do anything other than just play a game of golf. I wanted to just dick around in that hub world with you, and they wouldn't let me dick around. What'd you think?
Yeah, that's. I'm not sure what the deal is there, because that was when we played online with World Invitational or World Open, whatever that was called on PlayStation Vita.
Yeah.
That was kind of one of the best parts, just like jumping around and sprinting around each other in little circles and kicking the soccer ball around. And
also you could play delayed, where I could take a shot at like 1 o'clock. You could pick up the Vita anytime you wanted 2 hours later and do another shot. That was amazing.
Yeah, and obviously the PlayStation 4 doesn't lend itself to that kind of pick up and play, like sleep mode in your pocket kind of approach. That was pretty unique to the or the portable version, but it's still this is one of those games where very slight iterations and gameplay do make for like a really great sequel, because the Hot Shots Golf formula is so refined and so spot on, and they know exactly what makes these games so addictive, and they keep giving you exactly what you want, with just a little bit more flair, with just a few more features, with just a few more things to do. And honestly, that's all anybody wanted this to be. And it is exactly that. It's just a really gorgeous Everybody's Golf game, or Hot Shots Golf game, with brand new courses, a really in-depth character creator. I do wish it was easier to, because you can, for people who don't know, when you go into the online mode, you pick a golf course that you have available to you that you've unlocked, and then you're just kind of dropped onto that golf course. And like in real life, it's just all open to you. You can run around the entire golf. You can run in the middle of the fairway. You can jump into the lakes. You can play around in the sand dunes. Like it's just all open before you. And there's people online playing on the golf course as you're running around. And if you want to go for a round of 9 and you're taking strokes and teeing off, there's going to be people running around and dicking around all around you. So it's a fun, kind of inclusive. You feel like you're really playing a game with a bunch of people. But like you said, you and I were in a party, and we did not end up in the same server instance. We were not in the same. We were on the same golf course at the same time, but we could not see each other or interact with each other. But we both had other people in our worlds. So that's a little strange. They should make that easier.
Yeah, that seems to be the. Yeah, I didn't want to mess around with it. I just wanted it to kind of work right away, because it seems to be.
And there could be something simple that we weren't doing, but it wasn't simple enough to where we saw it right away.
Yeah, and we're professionals.
Exactly.
But yeah, like you said, it's Everybody's Golf. It's Hot Shots Golf, and it looks great, and it's affordable. It's the right price, I think.
Yeah.
Where I didn't hesitate about grabbing it, and I didn't feel bad that I haven't played it too much. And you've gotten really hooked in with the progression of it. You were saying that actually to progress, you end up playing that same course, that first one they give you, quite a number of times, and you have to level up enough that you can fight a boss, and you have to do that process, I think, 3 times
Yeah,
for
at
the
least for the
course, right?
first rank. Like if correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the last one on the Vita, you would kind of go through, even if you were rank 1, like you played on like at least 2 different golf courses, like kind of flip-flopping around
Yeah.
as you go through this kind of like tournament.
But that was a
But in
vastly more powerful system, the Vita, than the PS4.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's strange. They kind of pigeonhole you into this one course, and you have to play the course. And if you do well, you'll level up. And when you level up, you face an AI opponent. And if you beat that AI opponent, then you play the AI opponent, by the way, on the same course. Once you beat them, you play the same course once or twice, enough to level up. Then you face another AI opponent on the same course. When you beat them, back to the same course to level up again and for the third and final showdown with an AI opponent on the same course.
Yeah.
And when you finally rank up and beat that last opponent, then you progress to the next rank, which opens up another course, or you can go back to the first one. So for the first couple hours, you're going to play a lot of Eagle City golf course. It's just going to be that one for a while until you rank up.
Yeah, that's I mean, hopefully the game opens up quite a bit, or maybe they're going to be adding a bit more to the game as they go along. I still don't regret it. I mean, I would gladly play $50
no.
just to have played. The ability to play a couple courses with friends and play Hot Shots Golf on the PS4 is definitely worth it. It's the kind of golf game you don't have to know too much about golf to get into, but you can get very, very good with it. There were a couple instances where they like to offer you that more dangerous route off to the side, and if you can nail that, high reward, high risk. One of the tweaks they made, if you're familiar with Everybody's Golf before, is that the normal swing in golf is press once and your bar fills up. You press it the second time to select your power, and then the third time to nail the accuracy. And if you're a little bit off to the left or right, that's going to cause you to slice or hook it. With putting, it was always a 2-button press, but now they've added that third one. I'm not really a big fan of that, but so far it hasn't been too detrimental. They are a bit more forgiving with it, but I do kind of wish it wasn't there.
Yeah, putting's hard enough. You're taking in so many more factors, especially for longer putts where there's any kind of incline. So it's just an added layer that I don't think really needed to be there. But maybe as I get into more advanced play, I'll see the benefits of it. But who knows?
Who knows, indeed. All right, we're kind of coming to the end here of this Game Thing Talk with alumni Matthew Hayes. Samus returns.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could touch on that really briefly because I've only put in about 5 hours into that one. But this is my first Metroid game, my first Metroid game proper anyway. I've never actually played through a Metroid game, so this has been an interesting introduction to me, especially as a person. Like, I love Metroidvania style games where you're exploring a map and kind of like I was talking about with Kingdom Battle, you're constantly running into things that you cannot get past until you have a certain power up that's hidden somewhere else that you might not be able to access until you get another power up that's hidden somewhere else. It's just that loop of exploration and filling out a map and powering up very slowly as you battle enemies. And it's been an amazing hook, and it's executed really, really well. And it's one of the most beautiful 3DS games I've played. It has some of the best 3D effects I've seen on the 3DS. They were very well planned out. The frame rate is extremely consistent.
That's good.
The action is you free roam left and right, and your joystick, you'll shoot in whatever kind of direction you're facing. And if you want to stand still without moving and you have like full 360 degree aiming capacity with her arm cannon, you can hold the left shoulder button and that'll kind of plant her in place, and you can aim around and kind of take very careful shots. So the shooting is really on point and very precise. And then you also have a melee counter button where right when an enemy dives in at you, they always have some kind of audio visual cue, and you can perform this like melee slash right at the last second, and that'll like auto lock you onto the enemy and stun them for a second, and you can release a powerful counter shot right after that. And they tie that into the combat almost constantly, and it's fantastic. It really moves things along. It makes it feel like a really engaging action game anytime you're facing just even the smallest grunt to the more flashy boss fights that do that counter will trigger special kind of cinematic counter moves, and then you're utilizing your different power-ups, your ice beam and your regular beam. Every boss is kind of like a puzzle. You may have to utilize different powers to disable some of its attacks and figure out how to get to the point where you're countering it and doing some serious damage.
Wow.
It's been great. It's a great action game, and the Metroid component of map exploration and finding those secret nooks and power-ups and suit upgrades. It's been really addicting. I'm totally lost right now, by the way. I played for an hour and a half last night and made zero progress. I have no idea where I'm supposed to go or what I'm missing, but that's part of it. Just poring over your map and trying to find that little thing that you missed, that little detail, that hidden pathway.
So they're really going for that Metroidvania vibe, I see. This is great. I love that they're still pumping these games out onto that old 3DS, and that it's still running really well. That's on a new 3DS you had played it?
Yeah, I'm playing on a new 3DS, although I haven't seen... I imagine there are probably a lot of people out there playing on an original model or a regular 3DS XL. I haven't read any reports of performance issues, so I think they really optimized it very well.
Wonderful. I love that they added that timing piece to it for the defense and sort of the counterattack.
Yeah.
That's just such a great thing to put into a game that adds a constant engagement with the player. I just started playing Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns.
Yeah,
and what they've done is they are 13-2. Real quickly, let me just say, this is one of the most underrated Final Fantasy games. It's a shame that the first half of Final Fantasy 13 was so terrible, so terribly told, that people will not play 13-2. This game is tight narrative experience. It's the combat system is great. It adds a little like a Pokemon monster type thing where you can go around and collect different enemies so that you recruit them to your team. There's tons of things to level up. There's tons of things to explore. Once you beat the game, there's a whole whack of great post-game content for people that really want to keep going with it. And the story is just one of the best Final Fantasy stories I've ever seen. Now, Lightning Returns I've switched over to. This adds a, you can see that they were close to going to what Final Fantasy 15 ended up being, because now they've ditched your party members. You're just the one character, you're Lightning. You're switching your roles on the fly from like magic user, physical, defense, but you're also having to watch the enemy animations and block in real time and move around as well. And then if you time it perfectly, you take a lot less damage and you can stagger the enemy, which is really nice. So, however, big problem with Lightning Returns, the opening story is a big narrative dump of all these crazy concepts. It's getting complex, and I'm getting a lot of bad vibes from it. I'm starting to feel like I did when I played the first half of 13, which scared so many people off.
Yeah.
And really dug Final Fantasy, the franchise, a huge hole to come back from. So it's I don't know. It seems like it was a rush job, is what I was hearing from it, but we'll see. Apparently it gets a lot better, but we'll be streaming that on this channel if you want to find out a little bit more. All right. What else could we talk about here? I think that's just about it now for today.
I think that was it.
That is Matthew Hayes. You can find him at comicbook.com/gaming or wwg.com. He's the managing editor over there. They are covering everything you need to know in the gaming industry. So, once you've read all the articles on our site, you can go over there and get a different flavor, see what we missed.
Newly revised, newly overhauled at 90skid.com.
That's right. Our new website looks amazing. We have an endless scroll. It's just nice. Lachlan, the big man, Dark Horse, you might know him in Discord. He has been, his vision was not a site that was clickbaity. He wanted it to be nice to look at, and it's pleasing. It's like scrolling through Flipboard, a little online magazine. Okay, sure. Matt, what are you up to for the rest of today?
Oh, I'm going to finish that ghost story that I started.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I'll probably write out the Samus Returns preview that I just kind of vomited out. Try to do that a little more eloquently for the website. And probably have a few drinks later, man. It's Sunday, so I'm kind of getting geared up for the week.
Oh, great. Yeah, maybe we can hang out and drink alcohol together and play Dreadnought?
Maybe.
Yeah? No?
Maybe.
Oh, you don't want to play Dreadnought, do you? All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Callum Daly says, bye. Great talk today. Thank you very much. Callum Daly also says, 15 was originally Final Fantasy versus 13. That's right. And people see that seam where they sewed it together like Frankenstein with the brain of a criminal. And cool, you might have converted Callum into another game with Samus Returns. So Samus Returns and my Rabbids, send your royalty checks to Matthew Hayes at comicbook.com/gaming. Everybody, you guys have a great day, and we will see you later. And bye for now. Okay, bye. You want to mute your microphone for me, Matt? That'd be great.
I will.